Good morning, wrestling fans, and welcome to PWR Today. It is now Wednesday morning, and it is July 15th, 2020, along with Matthew Thomas. I'm the man they call Meathead. Good morning, Matthew.
Well, top of the morning to you, Meathead.
Top of the morning to you. Will you doff your cap? Will you tip it?
Of course I will. I'll always tip it for you.
Now, was it you that wised me up on the Monopoly guy? Because, all I think of is, like a monocle and do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
No, that was correct. I mean, Jim Carrey did say that, but the Monopoly man has never had a monocle.
Odd. I'm going to have to go back and check that, even though I want him to have it.
and interestingly enough, Sinbad was never in a Genie movie.
Really? Sinbad the actor, of course, or Sinbad the comedian.
Exactly. Never in a Genie movie. A lot of people remember there being two Genie movies in the mid-90s, that and Kazam, the Shaq Genie movie, but a Sinbad Genie movie apparently never existed.
I wonder if it was in the works. I wonder if they had that going. That could be if that would have been ever made, that could have been a How Did This Get Made, one of my favorite podcasts out there. Folks, if you're not listening to, wrestling all day, every day, like, we do, and we know that you do because you listen to this one, check out How Did This Get Made? Free plug for Tall John Shear and Jason Mantzoukas and June Diane Rayfield. I absolutely love. Have you listened to it at all?
I haven't. You mean their podcast about things other than wrestling?
There are podcasts about other things other than wrestling. The premise is they watch a movie together, ask how did this get made, and poke out plot holes and make dick and fart jokes.
Well, that sounds like a time.
Again, big Jason Mantzoukas fan. I loved Rafi from the league, and Paul Scheer is actually quite funny. I mean, he was the punching bag on the league, but, it is what it is. So, folks, one recommendation right now. Go check out How Did This Get Made after you're done with PWR Today. So, it's Wednesday. What happens on Wednesday nights, Matthew? It's AEW and it's NXT. We just came off of two big wrestling weeks. Excuse me. 2 big wrestling weeks of action. We had the Great American Bash. We had the, Fyter Fest. And at the conclusion, because, of course, we talked about it last week on Thursday, at the conclusion of it, NXT has a brand new champion, one person holding 2 belts. It's NX Lee, as Morrow suggested, but Keith Lee is holding the NXT World Championship and the North American Championship with Karrion Kross in his sights. On AEW, we did not crown a new world champion. It was supposed to happen at Fyter Fest at the culmination of Night 2. However, tonight, Fight for the Fallen, we're supposed to get this match. Jon Moxley, Brian Cage. Matthew, how do you feel about this match coming up tonight? Do you have anticipation? Do you have, as in the league, do you have an anticipation? I mean, are you excited and ready to see this match?
Here's the thing. I think it's kind of getting lost in the shuffle. Everybody was looking at the last 2 weeks as being these 2 pay-per-view quality cards going up against each other. But the biggest match that AEW had planned for that is actually going to take place tonight. And I'm very interested in the outcome of this because I think that there could be some very big news coming out of this. You look at it. So Cage, he won the title shot. And most of his matches thus far have basically been squash matches, correct?
Mm-hmm, they have.
And so here's the thing. When you look at this from a booking perspective, how much momentum does he lose? How much steam does it let out if he doesn't win the title tonight? I think it's a bit of a surprise, and I think it seems like it's fairly early in Moxley's title reign, but I think the title's changing tonight on AEW.
But doesn't he already have a championship belt? Isn't he the FTW recognized champion?
That is true, but maybe he becomes I'm trying to think of something that rolls off the tongue for Brian Big Belts or I got to work on that. But I just here's the thing. Like, if he does not come out victorious tonight,
Brian, I wear my big belt pants.
I think you've got to have the other option. Is there somebody that we're not thinking about that, comes in and maybe starts a feud with him? Because I can't imagine them putting this investment in him only to really have him lose quintessentially in his first real match. Because you stop and think about this, he won the title shot, in the
Double or
in
Nothing
the
in the
yeah
casino. Yeah.
yeah in the that match. So he hasn't really had a real one-on-one singles match, and it's hard for me to imagine that you've built him up as this big imposing threat and he's going to lose, and where does that leave him at that juncture? So the other thing that's kind of tipping me in that direction is, there was a lot of news coming out of NXT last week. It was a lot of game-changing things. AEW, as solid of a card as it was, it really did not have that big news coming out of it. And just listening to the response after the two shows went head to head last week, as much as it seemed the general consensus was that people enjoyed AEW, it did not seem that newsworthy. So I look for them to try to make some news tonight.
So you mentioned that maybe there's a chance, because, we've heard this from Dave Hero. We said it a couple times. He said it with Shane Helms. He said it again on PWR Today yesterday morning. Brian Cage has to either win or he has to lose by shenanigans, double DQ, something big. You say that it could be somebody coming in. All the booking consensus really seems to all line up the same way. I have a name for you, and he's been doing these vignettes the last few weeks. Could he lose this match due to some outside interference from Darby Allin?
That just seems anticlimactic for me.
Okay.
I think if you do, if it's outside shenanigans and a feud that you start with somebody, I think it's got to be somebody who's not on our radar.
Okay. Well, he's definitely on our radar. Darby Allin's going to be coming back. I think it still might go that way. However, I don't have interest in Cage versus Darby Allin, because Darby Allin, I want to see him do well, but to put him up against a monster like Brian Cage, I'm all for David and Goliath matches. Okay, they have their place. But a Brian Cage and Darby Allin match, as much as I love Darby Allin, I don't want to watch that match, because really it's just a redo of Brian Cage throwing around Jungle Boy Jack Perry or Marco Stunt.
And here's the thing. It's not common in 2020 to bring somebody in, strap a rocket on them, and just take them straight to the title picture. That does not happen much anymore. But AEW, they're the new kid on the block. They will take some chances, and I just, it could be the right move. And you've got to also factor in the era that we're in, and booking decisions might not necessarily be what they were back when you had audiences. I think that could very possibly, influence the outcome of some of these title matches, and I think that it's really, WWE on their end. I think that once you get, an idea of when you're going to go back live, I think you've got to get the title off of McIntyre so you can have that feel-good moment of him winning the title when you get back in front of fans. And man, I think that the possibilities of a heel winning a title in this current climate that we're in, although it seems kind of early into a title reign and it might seem a little bit premature, I think all bets are off because we're in uncharted waters.
In these unprecedented times, now more than ever, by the way, the two most marketable phrases in this whole pandemic, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of hearing those particular phrases used to sell product. You're right. It's, we don't know when COVID-19 and the pandemic, or whatever you want to call it, is over. We don't know when we're going to get back to audiences. We just heard from Dave yesterday about how he ran his first show out in Ashburn here in Wisconsin. And, he can do as much as he can as the booker man, as the promoter. But, when do we get back to having a full audience?
Here's the thing. Is it easier now to have a heel champion? Because, heel comes out there, he's mean, or you can just have a silent heel, with a good mouthpiece. I feel like people like McIntyre, your babyface champions, they're in a tough spot because so much
Yeah.
of the appeal of a babyface is that connection with the audience. And when
Yes.
there is absolutely no audience there, it's crazy. We were talking about it last week. It's really hard to get a consensus of how McIntyre's title reign is going because you have a hard time, getting the pulse of things.
Well, not only getting the pulse of things, because really the wrestling business, again, not that I'm in it because I'm not, but it's based on ratings and it's based on merchandise and pay-per-view buys and all these other things, right? So they're not going town to town. They're not selling out of his shirt, right? They're not selling pay-per-views. His Q rating might be the only thing that's left to judge it on and how things feel. They really got to base it on the internet, and that's the worst place to base it on is, shows like ours or shows like, any of the other wrestling podcasts out there. We're not the ones that are going to be setting the book, for them. That's them to set. We just like to talk about what happened and analyze it and move on. So tonight we've got Brian Cage and we've got Dean, I almost said Dean Ambrose, Dean Moxley, John Ambrose.
I was hoping for Brian Cage and Dean Malenko.
Well, Dean Malenko's an agent in AEW, so you never know.
I'd pay money to see that.
Show them all 1,000 holds, right? And then Jericho comes out and wins the match with 1,004 arm bar.
Absolutely. Just get some dot matrix paper from the back and you're all set.
10-4. Yeah, so that's our big match, and that's tonight. And, we could have a new champion only because of the era that we're in. If this were a live, audience, live show, I'd say Moxley would retain, but you got to keep Cage strong. You want to make this a real heel? Let him win. And it's not right to Moxley, but, it is what it is. We got another title match tonight, too. This is going to be the TNT Championship. Cody will defend against the Concrete Rose, Sonny Kiss. Your thoughts on Cody coming back and defending again? And does Sonny Kiss have a chance?
I don't think so. I think we'll see a great match. We'll probably get to see more of a spotlight on Sonny Kiss than we have thus far. I don't think I have yet to feel like there has been a TNT title match outside of the one with Jake Hager where I felt like Cody was in much danger of losing the title. That might change. This feels a lot like John Cena's Open Invitational for the U.S. title some years back, where you are giving a lot of the talent that you normally would not get to see. Even some tag team wrestlers are getting to see them, featured in singles matches. So I think this will be a great match. I'm greatly looking forward to, but I don't think there's going to be much of a likelihood of the title changing here.
After a while, that may take a little bit of the steam off of it, but still looking forward to the match. Speaking of tag team matches, the first time ever dream tag team match, FTR will take on the Lucha Brothers. This is their first time. So Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler will take on Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix. Your thoughts on it? Are you looking forward to I don't think it's a high spot match, but I think this is going to be amazing tag team.
No,
wrestling.
I think this will be outstanding. And you've got two teams that are, two different styles, but two teams that adapt great to whoever they're in the ring against. So I think this will probably be, match of the night. Although I will say every time I hear FTR, my head initially goes to FDR as in the president. And that.
So you think they're going to wrestle guys in wheelchairs?
Well, no, I'm picturing a finisher called the New Deal.
Six-man action. We got the Elite, Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson taking on Jurassic Express. I felt the same that Dave has said for a while. I love Luchasaurus. However, I just don't believe him to be a dominating big man like he should be.
He's not a real dinosaur.
I am aware of that. But, if he comes out and acts as a dinosaur, shouldn't he be, crushing the competition?
His kind is extinct. And, you got to think that, he's probably not faring too well in 2020 when the rest of his species is extinct. So his lack of, wins, can kind of be contributed to that.
Okay. Well, that is AEW's Fight for the Fallen. We still got WWE's NXT tonight as well. Matthew, last week we had Keith Lee, again, NX Lee, as Marl called it, go out with a bang and hold both belts, the NXT Championship and the North American Championship. And just for those that were wondering, that NXT belt is not the one that you saw in that video with Paige and Brad Maddox and Xavier Woods and all that. That is a different belt.
Okay. That's right. That's not the same one.
So really, we were left last week with Karrion Kross staring down from above and Keith Lee. Play this out for me. What happens with Keith Lee up until maybe the takeover before SummerSlam?
Now, a lot of this is going to depend. Is there a rematch clause in NXT? I know WWE main roster, they have pretty much dropped that over the last several years, but do you know offhand what the status of the
Nothing I'm
rematch
aware
clause
of.
is?
It's up to William Regal to decide if he gets a rematch or not. I mean, let's get back to Adam Cole in a bit. Where's Karrion Kross fit in?
I think we probably get more of what we got last week. I think it's going to be a little bit of time until we actually get a face-to-face in the ring. I think kind of him watching him from above, maybe he kind of goes a Sting route. Maybe he just kind of watches people from afar now. I think it's going to be a few weeks before we get a face-to-face. I mean, I think you've got those two at the next takeover. I think that's, probably a given at this juncture, but I think you keep them separated. And by separated, I mean not even in the ring together.
Just Offspring style.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Gotcha. All right. So the Keith Lee thing and the Karrion Kross thing, I think, is already set in motion. Where do we go with Adam Cole? We talked a little bit about it last week as well. Adam Cole is now lost, so therefore, where does he go? Does he stay there? Does he go after something else, or is he main roster?
Oh, man. Again, we're in such a strange time because you completely lose the crowd surprise and the pop for, somebody debuting on this main roster. I think he's in NXT for a while. I don't think I don't think he's necessarily done there. I think he's still got some business. I mean, you've had his stable has been together for quite a while now. I think there's potential for maybe some rifts there. I mean, you've got four guys that can all go that have been a cohesive group for quite some time. So, maybe you have some type of blow off there before.
It's a good point because, I mean, the Undisputed Era at one point held all the gold, right? It was the Undisputed Era. The North American, the tag, and now the NXT World Championship are gone. You got four amazing talents there. Kyle O'Reilly is back, Bobby Fish, Roderick Strong, and Adam Cole. Maybe they go after each other. But how long do those programs go? I mean, Adam Cole, again, size is always going to be his detriment. You heard from Shane Helms that it's going to follow him around for the rest of his career. And so what? Size followed around Shawn Michaels for the rest of his career. Size followed around Rey Mysterio. But those guys overcame their size and wrestled the big man match. So I'm ready to see Adam Cole mix it up. And I would think that Raw right now, especially with Matt Riddle going to SmackDown, I think Raw is where Adam Cole would end up.
If he jumps, I think he jumps to Raw, and it's been interesting, with the Riddle, they teased it for a while and it wasn't a surprise. We knew he was going to go there, and they've shot him to the top. He's got an IC title match this week against AJ Styles. I mean, it looks like they're, they've got big plans for him there. And, you're losing out on the pop. You're losing out on the surprise of these people making main roster jumps. But, man, with you not having that crowd response element, you need things to keep it interesting, to give people, to break the monotony. And I feel like Raw and SmackDown, I mean, they've really, really been running into a lot of feelings where you come off the shows and you feel like it's the same stuff that you got the week before. So maybe now is more of an opportune time to bring up talent just to keep people engaged, just to keep people interested.
Yeah, and the Charlotte experiment bounced around from brand to brand to brand. Didn't work out as well as the Bayley and Sasha experiment is working, because I think they're doing a way better job going from brand to brand. But that can get old. I mean, you have Extreme Rules coming up this Sunday, the horror show, and Sasha may end up beating my girl, Asuka, and they might have 2 belts each. Yeah. They might run the women's division. There's a little bit of steam left on that program, but I think it's getting to a point where it may not work out for them. So they got to have something new. I mean, because right now they're kind of carrying the show.
Yeah. No, without a doubt. You've got to you can only go to that well so many times, and I think that having NXT there, especially having these people that have been on NXT, for a long time. You've got Cole, you've got Gargano, you've got a whole host of people that, this is
Tommaso
not the,
Ciampa's still there too, and
yeah,
he says he
yeah,
doesn't want to go up. So
yep. This is not the crop of people that, your traditional crop where, you're there a year and a half, you're going up. I mean, you've got a handful of guys that have been there for a long time. So there's definitely plenty to pick from there. There's no doubt about that.
yeah, absolutely. All right, so big night of wrestling coming up tonight, folks. Help us out. I've said this so many times, but it really is working. Matthew, I look at the stats, and you would not believe the view numbers are up, the download numbers are up. It's working. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, tell your friends, call your mama. Somebody better call mama, and tell her I'm the greatest. Let them know about PWR Today, Monday through Fridays, every morning. Matthew Thomas, Damian Nelson, David here. I have word, by the way, that tomorrow morning, Damian Nelson will be back on the program. I'll see it when I believe it, or I'll hear it when I believe it. But we'll talk about how the Great American Bash and Fyter Fest and Fight for the Fallen do not count towards the PWR draft.
Fantastic. Well, that'll be a nice return to PWR Daily here.
So for Matthew Thomas, I'm the man they call Meathead. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. So long, everyone.